The Earley Show will begin after a brief word from today's sponsor, Answering Legal. Visit answeringlegal.com to learn more about our 24/7 virtual receptionist team.
Answering Legal has been absolutely beneficial to my practice. Not only do they answer the phone 24 hours a day with a live receptionist, they qualify prospective clients that are calling in to get information, providing the benefits of a dedicated receptionist at a fraction of the cost, as well as reinforces our commitment to responsiveness and care. We've been using Answering Legal for a few years now, and I highly recommend Answering Legal to any large size or even small boutique law firm such as mine.
Welcome to another episode of the Earley Show. I'm your host, Chris Earley. I'm an injury lawyer in Massachusetts, and as you know, we always give to the very, very best in the legal profession in this podcast. Today we have a special guest. We have Charley Mann, who's a friend of mine. He's someone I met, six, 7 years ago. He changed my practice. I'm very candid about that. I've shared that to him and on stage about him. He's been very helpful for me. And I really wanted to get him on because he's got a good story. The thing I like most is he's not a lawyer, so he's got a fresh set of eyes on what lawyers need to do to grow and improve and get better for their lives first and their businesses second, right? We have to have those things in line. So Charley, welcome to the show, man.
Chris, I'm so excited to do this. It was funny because I thought for the longest time that you and I had done an interview on my podcast where I had talked with you.
Yeah.
I was convinced of it, truly. And this is the issue with, I've got a podcast now that's 150, 170 episodes deep. And when I've got someone who I've been buddies with for a long time, I'm like, yeah, of course I've talked with Chris. Are you crazy? So it turns out you, Adam Rawson. Oh, Jay Berkowitz is someone who's on that list. I thought I had already talked with Jay Berkowitz on my podcast. Nope. So now I've been feeding my EA names of people. I'm like, so we have to get these people on the show because I need to talk to them because I literally thought I had already. We need to rectify this wrong. So I'm glad we're also over here. And by the way, everyone, go listen to Chris's episode of They Don't Teach This in Law School, which might be out by this time.
That was awesome. We had a good time. Your episode, your podcast is wonderful. It's in my rotation. I love it. All right, so we've been friends for a while, but for those who don't know you, could you just share just briefly about your background? Right, I know you were a theater major, but even before then, growing up, what it looked like, siblings, influences. I feel like the way you start is so influential on how you end up many times. So, how did things? How were you influenced by your parents growing up, and how did that influence the man you are today?
I appreciate you asking about that because I do like talking about that when given the opportunity because, childhood certainly informs a lot. So the most important elements that I consider endemic to who I am today. And I'm glad, by the way, Chris, that you formed that question because I have to admit there's a little part of me that always has a sillier response prepared. And I was like, am I just going to out of nowhere say, oh, I'm a haberdasher, just for the fun because the word is fun. But you wrap it is. You wrap some great language around it. So you get the sincere version, which is my father was an FBI agent. My mother was a teacher. And I start with those two facts because obviously, like you today, I'm an entrepreneur and a government employee and a teacher are not necessarily people who think about entrepreneurship, who talk about entrepreneurship.
Right.
The idea of owning your own business, not something that was ever discussed when I was young. Even the mere concept of it was so many layers removed from who I was. Now, here's the thing that broke it a little bit for me. Both my parents grew up in the same household throughout their childhood, for the most part, a little bit of moving around. I moved around a good deal as a child. To advance rapidly in the FBI, my dad needed to move from state to state. So while I was born in Colorado, I lived in Maryland, then I lived in Michigan. In Michigan, I lived for about 5.5 years. And I kind of consider Michigan my home state, if I were to identify one, or my claimed home state. Then I lived in Texas, then I lived in Southern Virginia, and now I'm in Northern Virginia.
Wow.
And the moving around as a kid for me taught me some good things and some bad things. It taught me that you can press reset in life.
Yeah.
Great lesson to learn.
Yeah.
It also taught me how easy it is to let go of other people. Blessing and a curse in that one. I had to, as I became an adult, I had to learn how to value and develop long-term relationships with people. When I first came out of college, and I'll go back and fill in some of the high school gap here. When I came out of college, I had a sense of hyper independence that the only one who's coming to save me is me.
Okay.
And that's not necessarily a bad thing.
Right.
But it's not always a good thing
Right.
either. And that was informed from that moving around. Now, you talk about siblings. Moving around meant that my brother was my best friend, truly, growing up, because he's the one constant that I had throughout all of it. My sister is nearly a decade younger than me, so we've actually created a relationship as adults that we didn't always have as kids. But my brother and I have always been super, super close.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And that's also informed all that, hey, at least I have one anchoring relationship, so I don't have to worry about all the rest. These days, I've gotten very good, or at least better, at building, maintaining friendships and really investing in them and not being so afraid of that. I used to have a fear of it. Now, as I moved around, I tried on a lot of hats as a kid, right? A little bit of baseball in Texas, soccer in a couple of states. I was almost a football player at one point. I ran track for like a few months. I was trying all kinds of stuff until in 10th grade, I found theater. And theater was a breakthrough for me because I have a bit of an obsessive hobbyist personality where I don't just dabble in things. I tend to dive deep on a lot.
Like it.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah. Like leather working and woodworking and a bunch of crafting things and all sorts of hobbies. I dive really deep into them.
That's cool,
and
man.
yeah, and it's helped me professionally. It's one of the things that's helped me, like learning about law firms. When I meet someone who's got an unusual business structure for a law firm, I'm like, cool. So I'm going to occupy your next hour because I want to know everything about it. I think it's fascinating. And doing live theater was an opportunity for me to succeed at something, to really feel what success felt like and to be the best at something. Accolades, awards, yada, yada, that I got that allowed me to be the best at something. But turns out, Chris, if the other thing that you really want in life is to be a husband and father, theater doesn't pay the bills super well.
Right.
And I didn't want to be, nothing against waiting tables. It wasn't the career path that I wanted for myself.
Sure.
So fortunately, I come out of college. You know the story of me finding Ben and changing my life, being involved in Ben Glass Law and great legal marketing, seeing a different path that would allow me to be successful and to find this this kid who didn't know who he was, who was searching for who he was and the identity and like not identifying with, I can't be middle management. That's not something I can exist as. Nothing wrong with it, just not for me.
Right. It's not you, man. That's not Charlie. No.
No, not in the least. And discovering, there's this whole class of entrepreneurship that allows you to go and explore your own path, build your own world, and define things for yourself. That thank goodness I found that. Otherwise, there may have been a tragic end somewhere in there. If we're being perfectly honest, I can't imagine for myself living under someone else's thumb for the rest of my life.
I love that. I really just want to pack it for a second because, again, how we start is oftentimes who we become, right? So it sounds like you were moving around a lot. Were you ever able, so those are impressionable years that you were very itinerant, right? That's a lot of movement. Did you feel secure because your family was so tight? Or did you still feel insecure notwithstanding that tightness because you knew we're not going to be around here forever? So like, I'm not going to get too comfortable in this locale. What was that like?
Yeah, I have a deep level of security with the things that are absolutely closest with me. Because I know what it's like to move the small group and to know that there will be a small group of people that absolutely show up for you.
Okay.
But there was outside of that small group. Be careful. Right. Be careful because people come and go. There were people who I should have had longer friendships with who I just let go of because instinct was for me to really say, and it was self-protective, self-reflective of me to say, I think they're done with me. So I'm going to make sure I stop communicating with them before they stop communicating with me. So that way I'm the one letting go of this. I've made the choice, so I don't have to get hurt in the process.
Yeah.
Eventually I learned how to get rid of that and not worry about it. Doesn't mean it doesn't exist, right? Our, like you said, subconscious mind still creeps to the conscious.
Of course it does.
Yeah, but that's shifted.
To be aware of that. And what you just said resonates with a lot of people. I'll tell you that. It's how we think, and we want to avoid, preemptively avoid harm and pain, and that can be a good thing and sometimes a bad thing. So you were sort of, you're moving around to locales, you're moving around with sports, but you got deep into theater. You were geeking out on that. You realized I can geek out. I can go down and wide into this art form, and where you found identity, right? You found a resonates with you. You go to college. How'd you stumble into the legal world? Like, because you kind of stumbled, right? It's not like you were like, in theater, like, actually, I'm going to go train lawyers how to have better practices. How did you get there?
Right. And doing theater was like, that's any of you who have a kiddo or someone who wants to do theater, a great thing to do, but understand that what they may be searching for is a core identity for themselves. They're not sure of who they are. And theater allows you to explore, if you're an actor, explore different identities, which is really cool in some ways.
Love it.
But, the finding working with lawyers, the reason was because coming out of college, I thought it would be cool to work in marketing. That sounded nice. I had at the time been writing for a website that now has a much bigger name recognition, Bleacher Report.
Sure.
I was a featured columnist for the Denver Broncos. And it turns out I had been doing this thing called search engine optimization with the writing that I was doing. I just didn't know that that's what it was called. I actually produced a fantasy football blog that I monetized briefly with Google Ads. And I had a podcast back in 2009 for fantasy football, which looking back, I was like, I should have been riding that wave. I was ahead of that one. So I started applying for marketing jobs, and there was, as I always like to talk about, there was this job from this guy, Ben Glass, and it was a job to be to come on board as a marketer. And there was this larger group of interns that summer. And I was one of the interns, although I thought I had applied for a longer term job, but I wasn't 100% certain. So I got towards the end of the summer. And I asked, and it was Laura Wilson was in his office at the time. I asked Laura, like, hey, is there any chance, or is there more work to be had? I was brought on board as, I think like my title was business development specialist or something. I don't remember. There were business cards for me. I was super excited and latched on with that. And what I found was deep-seated joy in the challenge and exploration of marketing and its practical application. Now, at the time, it just happened to be with law firms because I was working with Ben.
Right.
These days, it is my chosen and beloved home to work with law firms and with lawyers. And I was actually just talking with, I have a second company now, Red Kraken Creative, where we write email newsletters for law firms. We get their weekly email newsletter out the door. And I was talking with my team of email marketers, along with my co-founder, Jenny, and I was telling them, hey, one rule about playing in any space that I operate in is we love lawyers unabashedly. So that's where I am, like, with my life is there's no such thing as doing the trying to write for lawyers these lawyers. That's not language in my world, because this space has been so good. And to see people like you, Chris, who own these firms, who blood, sweat, and tears go into taking care of clients while fighting the good fight for your family, for the people of your community, for the clients that you serve. I'm like, this is so, wow. This is such, what a privilege to operate within this space with these people and to help them build great lives in such a way that I too have a great life because of that work. That's awesome.
That's awesome. And what I'm hearing is curiosity. Like, you're a curious guy who likes to go deep on stuff, and you were sort of, navigating your youth, and you stumbled upon something which you found affinity in, and 2, which is lawyers, which makes you very rare company. I mean, there's a perception, but you just hit that with a sledgehammer. You said, no, actually, this resonates with me. This is vibrating with me. I like this. And that's great because you have found your nook, and you're going, again, like theater, we're going deep and wide here for a career. You found your career. And
part of it, Chris, was because of the identity thing. This was the common thread that I saw is in working with law firm owners. You've gone from a transition of being a lawyer who owns a law firm to being an entrepreneur, right? And that transformation, I went from being a theater kid who loved that to marketer, entrepreneur. And there's a transition where you have to figure out, who am I? Where am I really headed with all of this? And that is, I get a lot of joy out of talking with firm owners and helping them find their joy, excitement, and building their skills in being the entrepreneur, because that creates leverage for an even greater life than if you just locked in on, oh, I'm this one thing that does this one thing. The coolest part about being an entrepreneur is I'm this person who operates in multiple spaces and creates massive leverage in my life in order to live a bigger and more bold life. I will someday again, I will step back on the boards. I will do a Shakespeare play again, undoubtedly. But boy, oh boy, there's nothing more rewarding than saying, wow, I am acting upon my life rather than having life act upon me.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. So you've worked with, countless lawyers in your career. Let me ask you an honest question. What's your biggest frustration when you're trying, generally with work with lawyers? Like, what is, you just hit your head against the wall, like, oh my God, why are they doing that? What's a common frustration you see, threads across the profession that you encounter a lot? Because you have a lot of conversations.
Yeah, I think I'll go with the one that really first comes to mind, which is, and while it's a frustration, I absolutely get it and sort of have love and affinity for it, is a degree of self-deception. So the great gift, obviously, that lawyers have is the gift of rhetoric and study and the balancing and development of arguments, right? And not in the like combative way, but in the debate club type of way.
Sure.
And there can be a lot of back and forth in the mind of some law firm owners about, oh, I want to build a Chris Earley level firm, or I want to build a Craig Goldenfarb level firm, or I want to build a Mike Morse level firm. Or then they go to a conference and they have, say, a multi-million-dollar firm, and they hear about the person who has $1 million firm, a ton of profit, and a ton of freedom. And they go, oh, I want to build that firm. Yep. Instead of saying, what's right for me? And stop trying to argue away from where you are and figure out more about where you endemically are going and what's really important for you. So acknowledging that it's okay to not try and duplicate Chris's firm. It's okay to not duplicate Mike Morse's firm. Yep. You just build the thing for you.
That resonates with me profoundly, because I have for years been like, big firm, big firm, big firm. Well, I'm experiencing the pains of getting to that. And I'm like, is that the way? I'm being really honest here, frankly. Yeah. It's like, well, do I need a big firm, or I don't know the answer. It's not rhetorical. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
But we're talking about curiosity again. That's a thread, right? To be curious, self-aware, to examine, to be critical, to not get in your own way, because the Goldenfarb way, isn't for everyone. The Earley way isn't for everyone. The soul practice isn't for everyone. Like, you just find your perfect, right? Let me ask you a question. Just if I could just go back in time for a minute.
Sure.
What do you think was the biggest lesson you took from Ben Glass when you get work together?
Choose life for yourself. Yeah. You get to write your rules. Obviously, we have societal norms and things that we respect and honor.
Yes.
But if you're trying to do good in the world, you can develop your own playbook and your own rule book.
100%.
And, making radical choices in favor of my family, for example, and showing up and being present when other people would tell me, "No, man, you're doing it wrong. You gotta hustle harder on it." And go, there will be a season in life when I undoubtedly do that, when my kids are off at college and I have more time. That's fine. I'm going to do this right now. and it's what works for me.
Well, that's the renegade thing, right?
Yeah.
I think you have to be a renegade, and that's not a negative word. That's a positive word, to go against the majority, to do what's good for Charley Mann, what's good for Chris Earley. And that resonates with me as well. I want to share 2 lessons that I took from both of you when I started, geeking out on your materials. The first one was, again, to be different, because law school does not. We just went on to your podcast just an hour ago. What they don't teach you in law school. We're talking about the permission to be different. When I went different, I talk about this on LinkedIn. When they zig, I zag, and that's not a superior thing to do, but it's my best way, right? Like that's and so going different, going the opposite direction makes you stand out, helps you grow your business because people are attracted to that because it's different. And it's novel. The second thing is building a list. Like, I mean, getting that sucker, over time, you keep building that thing. That's your best asset, right? I mean, that's where the money is made, because we talk about, you talk about it here. You talk about renting marketing assets, owning market. That's your marketing assets. That's your greatest ownership, because Google is very up in the air right now with Chat, GPT, and all these other platforms. So, but my list isn't susceptible to algorithmic fluctuation. So, Charley, I preach that to lawyers. So I just want to share those 2 takeaways to layer on, your biggest takeaway from Ben. So I hear so you are a coach, right, on the football team, and you're saying, hey, like, let's run this play. Sometimes they run it, sometimes they don't. Who are your most successful clients? Who are the ones who soar under your tutelage that you see, right? What are they doing right?
Consistency. Right? Consistency in the face of adversity. Consistency that to others appears a degree of insanity.
Yes, I love that.
Honestly, right? Like it's doing it, and Tony Albrecht now loves to echo this, I think almost humorously, because I use the phrase all the time. It's simple, but it's not easy. Like a lot of the habits to be successful are quite simple. It's why people will go to conferences and hear the same advice dozens of times and never do the darn thing. Because it's simple. It's simple to track a couple of numbers in your practice. Doesn't mean it's easy.
Yeah.
And okay, so actually here's another, I'm going to add a frustration. And by the way, this is across almost all business types.
Let it rip.
It is the people who show up at conferences and have the audacity to say, well, I've already heard that, but have never implemented it. You have the audacity to say, why are they talking about that? I've already heard that before. You go, okay, but are you doing it? Are you doing it? And they go, well, no, because I've heard it. I've literally heard that phrase. Well, no, I mean, but I've heard about it. That cognitive dissonance is mortifying to me, because I know that individual, there's nothing that I can do in that moment. Because I'm also not, I'm not looking for in life. So I have a phrase that I use with my kids a lot. And I just used it with my 10-year-old last night. We first help those who will help themselves. So I'm happy when someone extends their arm out and says, I am reaching and I am trying to get there. I'm happy to reach my hand back out to them.
Yeah.
But for the individual who has turned their back on the scenario, I don't believe in, for me, I'm not looking to be in the business of grabbing them by the shoulders and forcing them to turn themselves around to face an uncomfortable truth and do the work. There's a lot of people out there who are looking for, who are trying to put in the work and need some help and some guidance. I want to work with those folks and help them move faster, rather than, grabbing that person by the shoulders and trying to shake them violently and say, come on, can't you see what's going on here, man?
It's futile, right?
Yeah.
It's totally futile. So tell me, you talk about consistency. If you were growing a firm, I don't care, you have one person, you have 10 people, you're trying to grow that sucker. What are some things you would be doing? Obviously, it depends on the scale of the firm, I say. Let's just talk about a 3-person law firm, lawyer, 2 employees.
Cool. Supported solo. Yeah.
What are some consistent things that would put a smile on your face that lawyer is doing? I call it, again, you've heard me say it, shoveling shit each day. Those dirty jobs, no one wants to do it, but you're showing up. Can you give us a few consistency behaviors that will help that lawyer succeed?
Absolutely. And now look, I'm an easy smile. I'm such a happy-go-lucky person, but if I really want to get a big old congratulatory grin, I would have them touching base to develop and nurture referral sources every single week. And there's a multitude of ways. I'm going to keep this really zoomed out on just like overarching habits, not necessarily specific tactics. So it would be every single week there are efforts to build new referral relationships and nurture existing referral relationships. Every week, I would be doing something to improve my Google local presence. I would ask for a review from someone, for example, or I would upload a new photo to the profile. I would check on my website to make sure, are we actually mentioning the cities in which we would definitely take clients? Just little things like that. I would have them track a few basic metrics. If it were a PI firm, you and I talked about this in the episode of They Don't Teach This in Law School we just recorded, I would have them track signed cases, demand packages sent, and matters or files or cases closed, including, actually dispersed, right? Just keep track of some basic numbers every single week, or at least every single month, depending on the volume of the practice to be statistically significant. And then I would have them every single week set aside 2 to 4 hours out of the week that is all about working on the practice, not in the practice. It's doing the forward-facing developmental work. It could be business development. It could be systems development. It could be spending time with those numbers to help you make smarter critical choices. It could be time that's set aside to send the broadcast email or to write the physical newsletter that goes out the door or create a new chapter for a book that you're going to publish. But you set aside that time and honor that time for yourself. If I could just install a few little habits and the person comes to me 3 months later and goes, I've stayed consistent, I will have a big, dumb, golden retriever level grin on my face because of that work.
How often do you see that? Is it rare? 50% of the time?
It's a good question. I don't know that I have an exact number on it.
But generally, I'm going to take a guess and say the average bear isn't doing that stuff every single day.
Oh, absolutely. If we're zooming out to like broader populace, if you're doing that stuff, if you do that stuff every single week for 3 months straight, let's assume minimum you're in the top 5%, right? Okay. Minimum you're in the top 5%. And that's massive. Keep that stuff up for a year, you're in the top 1%.
I think you know, I talked so much about perseverance in your podcast, that teaches in law school just an hour ago. So it's being willing to keep going on that daily schedule of doing that and not seeing the needle move. Your intakes are staying the same. Your intakes have just gone down precipitously. And you just killed yourself last month networking, trying to, geeking out. Maybe you're doing even link building. You're really going above it, right? You're really nerding out here. That is success when you can keep on going, right? Despite not seeing the needle move, because there is a moment of popping. I believe that if you keep going and going, maybe you'll pop earlier than others, but if you keep going and going, it's going to happen. And I think that's what I've seen a degree of moderate success with is the daily. We talked about this before on your show. The daily habits that defines you, who you are, what you do day in, day out, how you show up, what you're doing. Can we just talk about leverage for a second? So, okay, we can't sometimes do all this stuff. I have a team, so I'm able to lead into this stuff a lot of times and get it done while the team is doing their part of the operation here. But I leveraged people in order to, right? Like you and I are talking right now. My firm, I'd like to think is humming right now. We're moving. We have our KPIs. It doesn't stop when I start recording a podcast with you, right? It's moving. Yeah. You just talk about leverage. You just talked about a lot of habits. Like, I'll just share personally. We found great leverage through offshore, team members. Some of our, we've had some great success, automation, technology. But could you just talk about leverage in general? Because you talk about oftentimes, right? 1 + 1 = 3, or that type of calculus. Could you talk about growing intelligently with leverage as your friend?
Yeah. So we're looking as best as possible, knowing that we will always operate in a flawed manner because we are merely human. But how often can we take the intention to look at what we're doing and say, how do I make this either greater than the sum of its parts right now? So like this podcast that we're recording, this can become for you, it'll become a LinkedIn post. Same for me. You can take this and turn it into short videos that can be later shared as well. Perhaps, so like with my podcast, we took the podcast episodes from the first 6 months and turned those into a book that's about to be released.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah. How do you leverage what you're creating that is past the moment that you're currently doing it? The other part of it is, how do I take the time now to make this easier to do in the future? That's another side of leverage. So can I make this process smoother, more profitable, automate it? Can I assign it to someone else? You were talking about, offshoring. Can I give this to someone else? Those are the two significant or very accessible ways to create leverage. Like, if there's something that you have to write over and over and over again, obviously the earliest versions of this would be create a Microsoft Word template that you can use. Rather than rebuilding it every single time, have a template that you can use. These days, we could use AI to help generate a lot of these materials. So I was just at Craig Goldenfarb's event, and he had Chris Keller of Keller Swan talk about using AI in his firm. And Chris eliminated 20% of his personnel overhead because of the AI that he has implemented within his personal injury firm. And he now has an 80-person firm that he oversees. And he has a coder in the firm, someone who's in charge, or a systems engineer, I think is what he calls it, or a data scientist, one of those, the types. And he is investing in that leverage by way of technology that will keep his firm ahead of others.
Oh, I love that. That's how you grow, because you're probably gonna kill yourself if you try to do all this stuff, by yourself.
Oh, and actually, you know what? That you inspired me to think of this, Chris, which is, yes, you would kill yourself trying to do a lot of it on your own. The other part of leverage is, what are you saying no to? Right? It's what are you getting rid of to make space to do the work that is valuable better? Because that's a form of leverage. If, let's say you're posting, you post on LinkedIn, you post on YouTube, are there things that you can get rid of that allow you to get more out of the marketing activities that you do? Because you can spend the extra 15 minutes figuring out, hey, what's going to be my hook for my YouTube video that'll lock people in the first 30 seconds, that may change it from being viewed 90 times to 900 times. That's leverage.
Yeah, then you're seeing a pop. That's calculated application of leverage to maximize impact. All right, let's talk about the lawyer. I gotta tell you, I can speak from experience. I started my practice broke as a joke, heavily indebted. Can we just talk about the lawyer doesn't have any money, but has a whole big old appetite, needs business. They just started their own firm yesterday. Okay, got no clients. We don't have a lot of money to spend. What are some things you would be doing to get the phone to ring without spending a whole lot of money you don't have?
I would go to every firm owner in town.
Yeah.
And I would ask them, what work can you take off their plate?
Oh, I love that.
That's what I would do. If I'm opening a PI shop, I'm going to every other PI firm in town and saying, hey, in my experience at the past firm that I worked with, there were cases that we just didn't like handling. I'm curious, what are the cases that you don't like handling? Do you have any of those currently? I would love to take those off your hands. Happy to pay you a referral fee. I've got the time to put in the great work for that, bring the value up for you. And we'll take it, off your hands, give you more time to work on the high level trial work that you want to do, or give you more time to manage your pre-litigation team because you don't like the trial work, whatever it might be. Estate planning firm, go to other estate planners. After we've run through all of the other law firms, what are the related professionals that I can meet up with? Can I DM them? Can I text message them? Can I just call the office? Yes, great to do coffees, lunches, etc. But maybe you're literally so budget conscious that you go, if I spend $50 a week on coffee, I'm starting to feel really, really stretched.
Yeah.
Now, if you're an estate planner or you're a practice area where you can get money up front, I'd say just go ahead and spend the daggone money to elevate it. But if you're a PI firm who, you're just stressed incredibly on the financial side, you just got to walk into places. That
I would show up, Charlie. I've done that.
Yeah.
I would show up.
Yeah.
And what happens? Like, oh, okay, Charlie. They're so befuddled. Take a seat, Charlie. John will be right up with you. They don't know what to say to you. And I did that. I would call all the time and show up. Not as much. I'd call because calling, talk about leverage. Easier to use the telephone as leverage there, but probably more impactful. Just freaking show up and say, "Hey, I was just in the neighborhood. Figured I'd stop by." And people will say, "Take a seat. I'll be right with you." That has been very successful. But I just want to, drop that.
There's going to be, if you go to your closest courthouse, there's going to be a lot of law firms that are located right around that courthouse. You can just walk around and say hi to 10 law firm owners and 10 just other attorneys. I would just be where the referral sources are and strike up the conversations. You don't need to beg for cases. You are there to offer, to be a helpful hand to them and to start a good relationship.
What's in it for them? Not what's in it for me. What's in it for them? I'm here to help you out. I'd love to, work with you. But yeah, sure, Charlie, I'll get back to you. But then you need to follow up. I feel like, hey, we had a good conversation.
Oh yeah.
And so that stuff works. Some of my best relationships are from me showing up. But there's one barrier to that, and that is fear. Because I've had that fear. It's like, it's in between your ears. Like, what am I doing, man? This self-talk. I'm going to walk in this lawyer's office and just show up. Like, what kind of asshole does that? Screw it. Go through the threshold and freaking jump off the diving board. Okay. It's not that big of a deal here. And then
Noah Kagan has a great book, $1 Million Weekend. And at the beginning of the book, he talks about this type of fear. And he refers to his own parents, and he talks about the immigrant ask, where he found that his family that immigrated to the United States, in the culture of the immigrants that they were with, there was just no fear of making the ask, because what's the worst that happens? You hear no. And he rightly says, for your average American white dude, I basically, in the dictionary definition of that, there is a boundary that they over respect. Yeah. So one of the exercises that he gives people is he says, go to your local Starbucks, and as you're checking out, ask them, can I get a discount on that? And it freaks people out to ask that. And he says, if you're willing to just do that, maybe you're going to get a discount, maybe you're not. But why wouldn't you ask?
Yeah, that's great. That's great. So we're being different here. We're breaking, because because the barista is like, huh? Like you just broke through all norms in society of asking for that paltry little thing, but it means so much. But so let's expand upon that, right? We're just sort of, showing up, but you need to be willing to get out of your own damn way.
Yeah.
And so many lawyers, I'm telling you, and I know you know this better, than anyone, they were so straight-laced, and this is the way it's done. Well, the legal industry is probably one of the most influx industries in the United States. There's private money pouring in. Jobs are no longer safe. So the degree to which you're able to generate business, right, will determine your success. The general thing, asking for business, going to, I'm going to this event with my wife tonight, some gala. I've never been to a gala, Charlie. But if I,
nice.
But I'm going to be, if I meet someone, I'd love to work with you. I meet you tonight at this gala, Charlie. I'd love to work with you. How can we work together? I don't just hit you with that. I'm trying to, establish rapport so we can have some trust at least. But it's not about this event. It's about asking for business. Doesn't cost you anything. So if and I was broke not too long ago. This is, when I first started, I didn't have anything. I wish I did that. I wish I was nervy enough to ask, because I was arrogant. I thought, no, the business will come to me. I got my Yellow Page ad running, because I'm a badass. I got this disgusting website. It's going to bring traffic. It's going to work. It didn't. So I would tell the new jacks coming up, or the middle-aged jacks, or the elderly jacks running this game for a while, continue to ask for business. Never stop, right? You cannot stop. Be nervy. You have to be.
I would never rest on the laurels. Whatever success that you have today, you are not entitled to it. It is earned. It is not given.
Right.
And I was fortunate that when I started my company, my first company, law firm Alchemy, it was very successful early on. I absolutely could have made the decision, oh, this is good. I can coast on this. But no, because I need to have a waiting list. I need to be paying attention to what the market really desires going forward. And even starting Red Kraken Creative, doing the email newsletters, we had an immediate influx of business in that already. And the company is like 3 weeks old now.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Thank you. I don't take it for granted. So it would be very easy to rest on my laurels there and say, oh, well, because we do 2 email newsletters a week for Red Kraken Creative, the Founders Letter and the Red Kraken Roundup. One of them is a sort of a personal diary of the journey for myself and Jenny. The Red Kraken Roundup is more of like a newslettery email that goes out on Friday. It would be very easy for me to say, things are good. Maybe I can skip a week on doing those. No, absolutely not. I refuse to skip a week. I don't care if I have to wake up earlier. I don't care if I have to stay up late.
Yeah.
These things have to get out the door. Otherwise, the momentum dies. And oh boy, it is hard to pick it back up when it does.
Yeah. You missed a week. What's another 2 weeks? Well, 3 weeks.
Yeah.
I'm in trouble, but it's not a big deal. So like, I'm with you. I'm a little bit obsessive on that. I'm almost fearful.
Oh,
like,
you don't say, Chris.
If I don't get off if I don't get off, if I go off the train for one stop, I'm nervous that momentum will be killed. Like I'm a weirdo. I post to LinkedIn every single day, and I feel like if I don't, something like not good is going to happen because I'm a weird person. No, but literally, but there's benefits to being a little bit obsessive because it takes 5 minutes out of my day. I'm not missing time with my family or working on my business. It's leverage. It's social media posts, that newsletter. I do an email, and definitely check out Red Kraken Creative. I know you've been really good hands with Charley. I have been doing email marketing, and one thing you taught me a few years ago was don't be shy. So I was like, I'm thinking about doing like once a month. What do you think? You're like, hell no, every week. Send that sucker out, and I've been doing that for what's years now, and I do not take days off. There's no letting off the gas, because what happens? That'll be 2 weeks. So I think when you obsessively have those rituals of productive behaviors, even if they're just like, there's no home runs here, right? They're just little bunts, little like baby bunt singles. But if we can get on base, we keep that momentum going, then you're going to outpace all the other teams, right? All the other law firms for sure.
Any of us who are in a business that's a service providing business, oftentimes our mentality, and this is certainly true for lawyers, our mentality is to prioritize the service of our clients first and foremost. The priority that you need to have even before that is service to yourself and your business. Because if you have a successful business, if you are generating new clients, if you are bringing in money, it means you are working on behalf of your clients with a safer mindset. You can make better decisions on their behalf when you are not fearful for yourself. And so if you I spend the first part when I wake up these days, and I won't keep this habit literally forever, but right now, this is the season that I'm in. When I wake up, I do writing for one or both of my businesses every morning. I could be writing an email that needs to go out the door. I was for a while. Every day I was doing 500 words as part of a book that's now going to be released for Red Kraken Creative.
Wonderful.
And the first part of the day is for my business. Then I can go and help other people's businesses.
I love that. But do you do that on weekends too, or just the weekdays?
Yeah.
And that's
I do it on weekends.
Because you don't always want to do it, right? You're not always like, sometimes it's tough to show up and do that, but it
is. So I'm fortunate that I've set it aside to be writing is the first thing that I do. So I love and adore writing. It doesn't mean that, there are days when I wake up, I look at the blank page, a little bit of drool comes out of the side of my mouth. And,
what have I gotten into?
But then I remember, I keep a catalog of ideas of things to write about. I open up my app and I go, here's like 18 different prompts that I can get started.
And then you're off to the races.
Exactly.
I just think a couple common threads here are showing up daily and leaning in to the fear, right? Yeah. Because I'm sure, so lawyers are taught to be fearful in law school, like, it's a dog-eat-dog world and don't do this, you get in trouble. Like, and you got to play by the rules. Obviously you lose your license, but let's not be too safe here, right? So like, in other words, let's not get it in our own way. Be safe to the point of being paralyzed by fear. So again, show up daily, do that work others are too lazy to do, and do that consistently and lean into fear. One third thing I want to share is be a giver, like share. So you have no money to start your practice. Go to the local bar and give a talk on how to succeed in law school, how to get into law school, like stuff like that. Like just be a giver. Charley, for years, I was a taker. I was like, how can I get a referral from that lawyer? How can I get take? And it wasn't like a malicious thing, just like I got to get cases type of mentality. Now it's like, I guess with time, a little more established, like, okay, I'm able to share, but I've shared this, with lawyers publicly. I share because I don't feel threatened, because I know lawyers, most part, will not do the work. That sounds arrogant, but it's freaking true.
It's true.
It's so
in
hard.
all businesses.
And I know
it's true.
Yeah. And so lean into your strengths. But like if this stuff is too hard or consuming, I get that, then hire someone. I believe, Charley, call me like an old curmudgeon, it's never been easier to start a practice. You have social, you have LinkedIn, ChatGPT. You don't need an office anymore. You need a freaking internet connection. So the barriers to entry are greatly dropped. How do you feel about that? Do you see that from your side as well, or no?
Yeah, of course. It means it's a double-edged sword. If you're going to start a practice, you can't take for granted that you have these tools. You have to do them better than everyone else. You need to, even more than ever, you need to be a student of the business development and marketing game. Because if you're not that, and all you think is that, well, I post, therefore I'm entitled to get clients.
No.
Man, that's going to be a huge, rude awakening, a big old slap in the face that you're not going to want. So take that side of it serious. Be grateful for the tools that you have. And in being grateful for those tools, maximize them. You can be grateful, but don't take it for granted.
No, absolutely. I love that. Well, I appreciate. How can people get in touch with you, Charley?
Yeah. So go to lawfirmalchemy.com. That's our coaching business. And I love working with firm owners over there. Come and join the Catalyst program. It's a cool space, and we have plans to continue to make it cooler and cooler.
Great program.
And thank you, Chris. I appreciate having you there. And for those of you who heard the email newsletter thing, you're like, that sounds like a good idea, but I do not want to write it myself. That's why Red Kraken Creative exists. So come over and have some fun over there. And as a last thing, if you love hearing Chris and I talk shop on this stuff, he's over on an episode of They Don't Teach This in Law School that either is coming out or recently came out. So go subscribe to that feed to get more of Chris over there.
Oh, I appreciate you. Finally, last question, I'll let you go. What are you reading, listening to, and watching nowadays?
So these days I am reading a series that was recommended by AJ Olofsky called Dungeon Crawler Carl. So it's a fiction series. It's just, it's pure fictional fun. I'm having a blast with it. I love having a heavy dose of like nerdy fiction that I can dig into. It brings me a lot of joy, because otherwise I've got a lot of newsletters from folks like Ben Settle, Magnetic Marketing, that are filling some of the business gaps, Kiplinger letter, etc. So that's what I'm reading. What I am watching these days is I'm staying current with The Last of Us season 2. I'll be honest, I'm not really enjoying it though. And so,
You're sticking with it.
Yeah, I want to see it through. I like studying the development of these shows and how story arcs work and where choices are good and bad. I mean, for me, it's just fun to study it. And then the other thing that I'm watching is The Studio on Apple TV Plus. That right now is probably my favorite. Like Wednesday when it comes out, everyone get out of my way. I would like to watch that show. Get out of my way. And then what I'm listening to, I'm right now, I mean, there's a bunch of podcasts that I listen to, but the big thing is every morning when I write, I put on the soundtrack from The Social Network, the David Fincher movie. It's music by Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross, Trent Reznor of Nine Inch Nails. And it has become the background music to my writing, and it helps energize me in the morning. And it's just, I never tire of pressing play on that soundtrack each morning.
Cool. Well, Charlie, one thing you have so much of is energy, and I appreciate that your energy is contagious. So never stop being so energetic. So I appreciate you. Thank you so much for coming on today, friend. Seriously.
Thank you, Chris. It was a blast. Thank you, my friend.
Thank you, Charlie. All right, that's it for this episode of The Earley Show. Be sure to check out more episodes of our show on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and the Answering Legal YouTube channel.